Hi everyone, welcome back to another lecture. In this lecture, we are going to talk about Terraform variables and how to use Terraform variables. All right. So this is the documentation I'm referring for today's class. Okay. So here we are discussing about variables and how to assign variables. Okay. First and foremost thing that comes to our mind when we hear anything, any new concept is why do we need that particular thing, right? For example, why do we need variables in Terraform? So we need variables in Terraform to avoid repetition of static values in your code. For example, let's say you are using availability zone, so as US East 1 in your AWS. So you are repeating that the same code in over and over again in the same Terraform script. So instead of hard coding that, what you can do is you can create a variable for it, right? So if you are coming from a programming background, you will be knowing what is the use of variable, right? So the same holds good even in Terraform also. Okay, so another use case is that let's say you are using US East 1A today, and after some time your team decides to switch to US 1B. Okay, so that will not happen, but for an example we are considering. Okay, so in that situation, instead of going ahead and changing wherever you have written US East 1A in the code, instead of going over all of them and change it to 1B, what you can do is if you have used variable, you can just change the variable value so that it will automatically change in all the places, right? We will look into that in the demo class. Then you'll be able to clearly understand why do we need Terraform variable. Okay, so next thing, so you understand why we need Terraform variables, but now the question is how can we utilize that, right? How can we create one? So the answer is pretty straightforward. You can use a special block just like your resource block. We have another block called variable. You can just define that and you can start referencing that block in your code. Okay, we'll see that in the demo class now. Okay, so let me head over to my Terraform folder. Okay, so this is my Terraform folder and this is my first resource that we saw. If you have following my tutorials on Terraform and AWS, so I have a separate playlist for that on my channel. If you see here Terraform plus AWS, you can go through that for the basics also. Okay, now let me come here. This is my first resource that we created, wherein we created a VPC, subnet, internet gateway, all those things, right? So what I'll do is I'll just copy the same code here and I'll go to my second. I have created another folder, and inside that folder what I have done is I've created two files. One is main.tf and provider.tf. I'll go inside main.tf and paste in all the code that I copied from the previous file. Okay, in provider.tf, what I've done is instead of writing everything in a single script, I have created two files. One is for provider, just for mentioning your providers, and the other one for the main code that we write, right? So this is my main code that I want to write. Okay, next thing, when you want to use your Terraform variable, the first thing that you need to do is identify where there is a repetition of your code, right? So you need to identify that. For example, the very first thing that I can see here is under tags. The first thing, Terraform is repeated everywhere. If you see here, I just highlighted Terraform is here, right? Terraform is here, Terraform is here, and Terraform is here. I've repeated more than 5 times, right? So what I'll do is I'll make a note of this one. Okay, I have used Terraform many times in tags, so I need to variabilize this, right? So let us do that. Okay, for doing that, let me do one thing. I'll just create one more file here in the second resource. I'll just name that file as variables.tf. Okay, you can name anything, but I'm going to give a meaningful name for whatever the files that I create. Okay, it is variable.tf in my case. I'll go back to my main.tf, and what I'm doing is here we have Terraform which is repeated more than twice. So what I'll do is I will create a variable for that. Okay, I'll go back to my variables.tf file. If you want to take a reference out of this, if you see here how to create a variable, is by using variable block, right? So let us go back here. So we can just type in variable, it will automatically come in. So you can just hit on enter, it will create the syntax for you. Okay, now here there is a void space, you need to provide the variable name for your value, right? So what I'll do is I'll go back to my main file. So here it is tags, right? Instead of what I'll do is I'll just name this variable as common tags. Okay, common underscore tags. I'll name that variable as common tags. Okay, now I'll hit enter. So you need to there are many attributes that you can pass here, but the main important one is default. I'll tell you what is default is, and you also need to specify, if you want you can provide a description, so that if anyone wants to read this script, so that they can also understand, right? I'll just say description. Okay, here you need to pass on the value for your things. Okay, so default means if you do not specify any value to this variable, it will take some default value. For example, in your programming, if you have seen, so in Python and all, what we will do is let's say we are using count, right? So in to count the number of variables and all, or to count the number of characters in Python and all, what we'll do, we'll first initialize count value to 0. So if you are not using anything, we are passing count as 0 initially. So then what we'll do, we'll iterate it, right? So we'll just say count plus plus or something like that, right? So in the same way, if you do not mention any value to this count value, what happens, initially it should be 0 only. That is the default value. In the same way, you can specify the default value for here. So that will, if you do not specify value for this common tag, whatever you mention here in default place, that will take in place. Okay, so let me type in, I'll just give the same thing what I've mentioned here. So Terraform is repeating, so I'll always use Terraform, which is my default thing. Okay, I'll just copy and paste that. What is the description you can give? You can just say common, you can give anything here. I'm just giving a meaningful name or the description here. Okay, so this part is done. Okay, we have specified a variable for your Terraform tags or the common tags that we see. Okay, next, identify anything that any other things that are getting repeated. Okay, so I see most of them are not repeating, and I also see that we have availability zone, which is repeating twice. US East 1A here, if you see, and here also we have availability zone. So let us variabilize this also. Okay, I'll go back to my variables.tf. I'll just type in a variable again, and here you can give any name. So I'll say AWS underscore, and I'll give availability zone. Okay, next you can specify the default value. Whatever you want, you can specify. So in my case, what I have used in the code, it can be anything. I'm just going with whatever I have specified here. Okay, so I'll just copy this one and I'll paste it here. Okay, description, I'll just type in PTION, description is equal to, and in the quotes I will just say, what is this, AWS availability zone, right? AWS availability zone, AZ, I'll mention like that. Okay, now we have done here, right? So let me save this file. Okay, so let me save all, and let me open my terminal. Make sure you are in the folder where your TF files are located. Okay, I'll just change it to CD second, right? So I'll just say CD, yes, tab, and it will automatically fill in the details. And let me first initialize this one. Okay, let me type in Terraform init. So let me initialize Terraform first. Meanwhile, what you can do is you can identify what are the parts that are getting repeated more than 2 times, right? So to keep it simple for this demonstration, I'm only going with 2 of the variables. But most of the time in your organization, they will variabilize everything, every attributes that they have. They are going to they try to variabilize it, so that in future, if anyone comes and modifies it, it will be easy for him. right? So that is one use case of your variables. Okay, now I've initialized Terraform here in this folder. Now let me just run Terraform plan. Okay, I'll hit enter. Let's see what happens. Here if you see, we just created variables.tf and we did not change in main.tf, right? So that is why what is happening is whatever you have mentioned in a main.tf file, that in itself is getting carried away, right? So that is only remaining here. We did not specify anything else, so we did not take the variables and add it in our main.tf file. So whatever we had mentioned in main.tf, it is getting the value, right? So now what we'll do is we'll reference these variables in our code. Okay, how to do that? It is really straightforward. First thing, let me take up common tags. Okay, so if you want to variabilize, or if you want to use this variable in your Terraform file, what you have to do is go back to your main.tf, and here if you see, this Terraform is getting repeated, but VPC, it is not changing, right? We have the different value here after Terraform. So what I'll do is I'll just remove this Terraform and get the value from our variables. So how to do that? So for this is a special case wherein only one part of your tag is getting changed. So in that case, what you can do is you can use something called as dollar, and with the braces, curly braces, you can mention var dot and the variable name. Okay, so if you see here, this value is, what this contains is this value, whatever the default value I have mentioned here, right? So that is the thing. And here also we are repeating the same thing. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this one and I'll paste it here. Okay, and same wherever you see Terraform, you can change it. Okay, so the next part is remaining same. Okay, so in case if I want that Terraform to be changed in the future, so if I don't want that Terraform, if I want any other value, so what I can do is I can come to here and I can change the default value here so that it will change it. Okay, let me change here also. Okay, now we are done. So var dot common tags, this is how you reference your variables. Okay, next let me go back to variables again. The next variable is AWS availability zone, right? Let me copy that. Identify wherever you are using availability zone. Here in my case, I am using availability zone here, so I'll remove this entire block. Instead, what I'll do is I'll just say var dot and specify this. Now you might ask me, here I have used dollar curly braces and the var dot value, but here I'm directly specifying it. Why did you do that? So there is no harm even if you mention like this also, right? I can specify dollar with the curly braces here, and I can end it here also. Okay, there is nothing wrong with that. So before Terraform was supporting this kind of thing when we were using Terraform 0.11 previous versions. Okay, so that was supporting this. Now what has happened is Terraform has changed its entire thing. So what they are doing is, instead of using this dollar curly braces and all, you can just directly specify it like this. Here why did I do that is because the next part is having other value and it should be referenced, right? So the first part is getting the value from the tags, but the next part is keep on changing. So if I want to keep that inside a double quote, I can use this one, right? So I can use this like this. Okay, again, if I have anywhere else where availability zone is getting used, I can just copy this one, so and I can change it. So if I see here, I think I've used it here also, availability zone. See, I'll just name it to var dot aws underscore availability underscore zone. Okay, now this is how you reference Terraform variables inside your script. Okay, let me save this. Okay, now I'll come back here I'll just run Terraform plan again. So in this video, I'm not going to build this architecture, or I'm not going to build any infrastructure. I'm just going to show you how you can work with this, right? So let me see the content here. If you see here, the tag name is having Terraform here, right? So because we have mentioned a default value as Terraform here, right? So if you do not mention default value, then what happens? That is also one important question that we can ask. I'll just comment out this one. To comment out, what you can do is you can just add hash, right? So let me save this one. Now let me run the Terraform plan again. Now let us see what happens if we do not mention our let me clear the screen once. I'll just type in clear. Okay, now let us do Terraform plan once again. Form plan. So I have commented your default values. So what it will do is basically it will ask you in the prompt itself. You can provide the values here, right? So here if you see, it is asking a value for your availability zone. So you need to enter a value here. If you do not mention default here in the variable block, you can specify here in the command prompt. Okay, I'll just say US hyphen east hyphen 1A. Okay, I'll hit enter. Next, it is asking for common tags. So this is what we had, right? So previously value was Terraform. Now what I'll do is I'll just type in my Terraform. I'll hit enter. Now the wherever we have mentioned these variables, the value should be whatever we have mentioned here. Let's see, right? So one thing that we changed is our variable name for common tags. We mentioned that value as my Terraform. Now if you see here, the name is getting changed to my Terraform everywhere. See, it was previously Terraform. Now I just changed one at one place, it is getting reflected elsewhere, everywhere also, right? So this is how you can work without giving the default value. Okay, and there is another way wherein you can specify your values for that variables in a separate file. Okay, so let's see that. I'll uncomment this default thing. Okay, I'll save this one. Now if you want to specify values for this variable, what you can do is you can create one more file called terraform.tfvars. Okay, let me create that file here. Okay, I'll just say terraform.tfvars. So remember this file extension and the file name, it should be always same. Okay, I'll hit enter, and here what you need to do is whatever the variables that you have created, you can assign a value for them here. Rather than if you do not specify any value, default value will take place. If you do not specify default value, it will ask you in the prompt. And if you have default and if you are not willing to specify anything in the command prompt, what you can do is you can have a separate file called terraform.tfvars, and inside that you can specify or you can assign the value for your variables. Okay, let me do that. It is quite simple. You can just paste the variable name here and you can specify the value here. So what is the common tags? I'll just say demo. Okay, instead of Terraform, I'll just change it to demo now. Okay, next we have availability zone. I'll just copy the variable name and I'll paste it here, and I'll provide the value as US East 1B. Instead of 1A, I will specify 1B now. Okay, let me save all these files. Save all. Okay, let me come back to my code here. I'll just clear the screen for you. Now I'll just type in Terraform plan. Okay, I'll hit enter. Now let us see whatever the value that we have specified here is getting or not. Okay, so if you see, this is the plan, and here just to identify, first thing, if you see here, the tag value we had given Terraform before, but now if you see whatever we have specified in terraform.tfvars, it is getting taken here, right? So that value is getting appended. So also you can check the same thing for availability zone. Okay, so I'm not able to see availability zone here. Okay, yeah, here if you see, okay, here Previously we were specifying availability zone as US East 1A, but now we have specified this value. That is the reason why it is getting added here, right? So this is how you can use a terraform.tf_vars file. But if you ask me, so I don't want to name this file as terraform.tf_vars. I want to have my own custom name. How can I do that? So there is an option to do that also. Here, if you go back to my documentation, I have mentioned that. So in that scenario, what you can do is you can, while creating a plan, you can specify this command line flag. So how to do that? You can just say -var -file is equal to, and you can specify the whatever file name you have, you can specify that, and it should always end with tf_vars, right? So then whatever you specify in that file, that will take into picture. Okay, I'll go back to my file here. So what I'm telling is I'll just copy this one. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll delete this terraform.tf_vars. Instead, I'll create my own terraform.tf_vars file with another name. Okay, I'll just say custom, okay, .tf_vars. Okay, so now if I specify this one, I'm giving command tags as demo and the availability zone as this one. Okay, now let us save this file, save all, and let us execute Terraform plan once again. I'll just clear the screen once again and I'll say Terraform plan. Let me hit enter. Okay, even after assigning values in custom.tf_vars, if you see here, still the value is Terraform itself, and the availability zone also, if you see here, it is US East 1A, but we have specified 1B and common tags as demo, but it is not getting reflected. Instead, whatever we have specified in default, that value is taken care, right? So but why? Right, so Terraform will only understand if you specify terraform.tf_vars file. So if you are giving any other file name, what you have to do is you will have to use this one -var-file and the file name with that, right? So let me do that now. So let me clear the screen. Okay, now what you can do is Terraform plan -var -file equal to, you can specify the file name. In my case, my file name is custom.tf_vars, so I'll just say custom.tf_vars. okay, and I think I need to enclose that in double quotes. I'll do that. I'll just say custom.tf_vars and close that double quotes and hit enter. Now let us see if we are getting whatever the value that we have passed here in the custom.tf_vars, it is getting reflected or not. Okay, now if you see, the name of the tag is demo. Okay, so it is getting the value from the custom.tf_vars. And also if you see the availability zone, we have US East 1B, right? So whatever we have mentioned in the custom.tf_vars, right? So this is how you can use it. And there is also another way. In case if you are using Windows, what you can do is you can set the variable before in hand itself. For example, so let's say I want to use a variable called common tags. So in that case, what I can do is I'll just clear my screen once again. I'll set my variable as set x by using that, and tf_vars_, you can specify the common tags, right? So I'll just say common_tags, and you can specify the value as demo. So this is the basic syntax to set your variables in your Windows machine. right? But this is how you should do it. And this particular thing, the starting tf underscore vars underscore, you should not miss it, because Terraform will not understand whether it is a Terraform variable or not. So when you are defining Terraform variables, you should always use this one. Okay, so now what it will do is it will set this as an environment variable. Later on, when you go with Terraform, Terraform plan, it will get the value from the environment variable itself. Okay, let me hit enter, and now if you play around with the Terraform plan, you will get the value whatever you have set the value for the environment variables. Okay, in the same way for Linux, you use a command called export, right? Export tf underscore var, not vars, it should be var. Okay, and the variable name. Okay, so sorry for that. So instead of vars, you should specify tf underscore var, right? So make sure that you are following the right order. Okay, so this is how you assign a variable to your Terraform variables. Okay, so that's it for today's video. If you're liking the content that I'm creating, please consider subscribing and share it among your friends. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one.
You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn and Instagram, and you can subscribe to the channel of MoogleLabs, and you can contact us on given number, and you can mail also on info@mooglelabs.com. So subscribe and hit the bell icon for any updates.